Hello, my sweet, sweet virtual friends. Welcome back. Today is February 8th, 2021, and today in reading, we are going to introduce your Spelling 15 list. As usual, when we are doing our book study, I suggest that you have a paper and pencil out so that you may take any notes that you feel that you need to write down while you are listening. While we are reading because of Winn-Dixie, chapters 15 and 16 today. We are also going to talk about your assignment that goes with chapters 15 and 16 when we are finished. So let's go ahead and get started with your spelling list this week. So we are on spelling 15 list. I'm going to go ahead and read them aloud to you so you can hear their pronunciation. Number 1 is formal, formal. Number 2 is whistle, whistle. Number 3 is label, label. Number 4 is puzzle, puzzle. Number 5 is legal, legal. Number 6 is normal, normal. Number 7 is needle, needle. Number 8 is pupil, pupil. Number 9 is struggle, struggle. Number 10 is level, level. Number 11 is bicycle, bicycle. Number 12 is channel, channel. Number 13 is global, global. Number 14 is dolphin, dolphin. Number 15 is complain, complain. All right, so let us go ahead and get into our book study. We are on chapters 15 and 16. We are almost done with reading because of Winn-Dixie. I don't know if you can see, we're definitely a little more than halfway through, so we are almost done with it. Oh, I don't want to be done. It's so good. So before I start reading chapter 15, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to keep an ear out for any of the connections that we can make. So text to text, text to self, text to world. I want you guys to keep all of those in mind because in your assignment today, you are going to tell me the connections that you heard. I'm not going to tell you the connections I hear today. You're going to tell me the connections that you hear. And I have already read through these chapters, so I know there are plenty of connections to happen. So make sure we keep our listening ears on. And we have a paper and pencil, wink, wink. And you guys are taking notes as you're listening. If you guys need to pause the video to write your notes down, please do. You guys are virtual. Take advantage of the fact that you're watching a video right now. You can pause me virtually. You can't pause me in real life. So that'd be so cool if we had a remote button, you know, or pause live. That's a movie. That's a movie, by the way. It's called Click. It's a movie. Anyways, so take a minute, pause, write your note before you continue. That way that you can truly listen to every part of it. You don't miss anything. Okay, so let's get started. Chapter 15. The Herman W. Block Memorial Library's air conditioning unit didn't work very good, and there was only one fan. And from the minute me and Winn-Dixie got in the library, he hogged it all. He lay right in front of it and wagged his tail and let it blow his fur all around. Some of his fur was pretty loose and blew right off of him like a dandelion puff. I worried about him hogging the fan, and I worried about the fan blowing him bald. But Miss Franny said not to worry about either, that Winn-Dixie could hog the fan if he wanted, and she had never in her life seen a dog made bald by a fan. Sometimes when Miss Franny was telling a story, she would have a fit. They were small fits, and they didn't last long, but what happened was she would forget what she was saying. She would just stop and start shaking like a little leaf. And when that happened, Winn-Dixie would get up from the fan and sit right at Miss Franny Block's side. He would sit up tall, protecting her with his ears, standing up straight on his head like soldiers. And when Miss Franny stopped shaking and started talking again, Winn-Dixie would lick her hand and lie back down in front of the fan. Whenever Miss Franny had one of her fits, it reminded me of Winn-Dixie in a thunderstorm. There were a lot of thunderstorms that summer, and I got real good at holding on to Winn-Dixie whenever they came. I held on to him and comforted him and whispered to him and rocked him just the same way he tried to comfort Miss Franny when she had her fits. Once I held on to Winn-Dixie for another reason too. I held on to him tight so he wouldn't run away. It all made me think about Gloria Dump. I wondered who comforted her when she heard those bottles knocking together, those ghosts chattering about the things she had done wrong. I wanted to comfort Gloria Dump, and I decided that the best way to do that would be to read her a book. Read it to her loud enough to keep the ghosts away. And so I asked Miss Franny, I said, Miss Franny, I've got a grown-up friend whose eyes are going on her, and I would like to read her a book out loud. Do you have any suggestions? Suggestions? Miss Franny said, yes, ma'am, I have suggestions. Of course I have suggestions. How about Gone with the Wind? What's that about? I asked her. Why, said Miss Franny Block, it's a wonderful story about the Civil War. The Civil War? I said. Do not tell me you have never heard of the Civil War. Miss Franny Block looked like she was going to faint. She waved her hands in front of her face. I know about the Civil War, I told her. That was the war between the South and the North over slavery. Slavery, yes, said Miss Franny. It was also about states' rights and money. It was a terrible war. My great-grandfather fought in that war. He was just a boy. Your great-grandfather? Yes, ma'am, Litmus W. Block. Now there's a story. Winn-Dixie yawned real big and laid down on his side with a thump and a sigh. I swear he knew that phrase. Now there's a story. And he knew it meant we weren't going anywhere anytime soon. Go ahead and tell it to me, Miss Franny, I said, and I sat down cross-legged next to Winn-Dixie. I pushed him and tried to get him to share the fan, but he pretended he was asleep, and he would not move. I was all settled in and ready for a good story when the door banged, and pinched-faced Amanda Wilkinson came in. Winn-Dixie sat up and stared at her. He tried out a smile on her, but she didn't smile back, so he laid down again. I'm ready for another book, Amanda said, slamming down the book on Miss Franny's desk. Well, said Miss Franny, maybe you wouldn't mind waiting. I am telling India Opal a story about my great-grandfather. You are, of course, more than welcome to listen. It will be just 1 minute. Amanda sighed a real big dramatic sigh and stared past me. She pretended like she wasn't interested, but she was. I could tell. Come sit over here, said Miss Franny. I'll stand, thank you, said Amanda. Suit yourself, Miss Franny shrugged. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, Litmus W. Block. Chapter 16. Litmus W. Block was just a boy when the firing on Fort Sumter occurred, Miss Franny Block said as she started in on her story. Fort Sumter? I said. It was the firing on Fort Sumter that started the war, said Amanda. Okay, I said and shrugged. Well, Litmus was 14 years old. He was a strong and big boy, but he was still just a boy. His daddy, Artley W. Block, had already enlisted, and Litmus told his mama he could not stand by and let the South get beat, so he went to fight too. Miss Franny looked around the library, and then she whispered, men and boys always want to fight. They're always looking for a reason to go to war. It's the saddest thing. They have this abiding notion that war is fun, and no history lesson will convince them differently. Anyway, Litmus went and enlisted. He lied about his age. Yes, ma'am, like I said, he was a big boy, and the army took him, and Litmus went off to war, just like that. left behind his mother and 3 sisters. He went off to be a hero, but he soon found out the truth. Miss Franny closed her eyes and shook her head. What truth? I asked her. Why, that war is awful, Miss Franny said with her eyes still closed. Pure awfulness. She shook her head and opened her eyes. She pointed at me, and then she pointed at Amanda. You, neither of you, can imagine how awful it is. No, ma'am, Amanda and me said at exactly the same time. We looked real quick at each other and then back at Miss Franny. You cannot imagine. Litmus was hungry all the time, and he was covered with all manner of vermin, fleas, and lice, and in the winter he was so cold he thought for sure he would freeze to death. And in the summer, why, there's nothing worse than war in the summertime. It stinks so. And the only thing that made Litmus forget that he was hungry and itchy and hot or cold was that he was getting shot at. And he got shot at quite a bit. And he was nothing more than a child. Did he get killed? I asked Miss Franny. Good grief, said Amanda. She rolled her eyes. Now, Opal, Miss Franny said, I wouldn't be standing in this room telling the story. If he was killed, I wouldn't exist. No, ma'am. He had to live, but he was a changed man. Yes, ma'am, a changed man. He walked back home when the war was over. He walked from Virginia all the way to Georgia. He didn't have a horse. Nobody had a horse except for the Yankees. He walked, and when he got home, there was no home there. Where was it? I asked her. I didn't care if Amanda thought I was silly. I wanted to know. Why, said Miss Franny, shouted so loud that Winn-Dixie and Amanda Wilkinson had me all jumped. The Yankees burned it. Yes, ma'am, burned it to the ground. What about his sisters? Amanda asked, as she moved around the desk and came and sat on the floor. She looked up at Miss Franny. What happened to them? Dead. Dead of typhoid fever. Oh, no, Amanda said in a real soft voice. And his mama, I whispered. Dead, too. And his father? Amanda asked. What happened to him? He died on the battlefield. Litmus was an orphan? I asked. Yes, ma'am, said Miss Franny Block. Litmus was an orphan. This is a real sad story, I told Miss Franny. It sure is, said Amanda. I was amazed that she was agreeing with me about something. I am not done yet, Miss Franny said. Winn-Dixie started to snore, and I nudged him with my foot to try to make him quit. I wanted to hear the rest of the story. It was important to me to hear how Litmus survived after losing everything he loved. End of chapter 16. So I do have to ask you, why do you think that it is so important for Opal to hear the end of the story? Why do you think it is so important for her to hear how Litmus survived after losing everything he loved? I'm gonna question that. I'm gonna find out what your predictions are for why you think she just has to know the end of that story. So that is going to be a part of your assignment for today. So not only are you going to be answering a small little discussion prompt for me about this specific question of why do you think Opal has to know the end of the story? Why do you think she has to know? Why is it so important to her? You are also going to do what you did for chapters 9 and 10. You are going to draw me a scene from either chapter 15 or 16. It's going to be the exact same, except I'm adding one thing to it. I am adding that I want you guys to label everything in the picture. So for the picture, whatever chapter you choose, if you choose chapter 15 or 16, I need you to label that it's chapter 15 or 16. If you choose to do a scene on Miss Franny Block sitting there telling her story to Opal and Amanda, and Winn-Dixie asleep next to a fan. I need you to identify which character is Miss Franny. I need you to identify Winn-Dixie. I need you to identify Amanda. I need you to identify Opal, and I need you to tell me what they're doing. So instead of just drawing me a picture and letting me assume that I know what the scene is, you are going to draw this picture and label it as if I have never read these chapters before. So you are going to label it and tell me who it is. You're going to tell me Miss Franny Block telling the story of Litmus Block. Okay? You're going to tell me, you're going to label it so that I can get a better idea of your scene. So that if I went and showed someone else who has never read this book before, I can tell them this is a scene from this book, and they will understand it more than rather just looking at a picture. So the reason that I have you guys labeling is because this is going to help you with what you're going to be doing on Friday. You're going to do the same thing on Friday, but you're going to be creating some more of a sentences rather than labels. You're going to be starting your learning about summaries. Okay, we're starting to practice our summaries. Whether you realize it or not, by you guys drawing pictures of the chapters, you were drawing me a summary of the chapter. You were drawing me a summary of a scene from the chapter. So a summary is basically a shortened version of the text. So we are just going by chapters. Now, we're not doing a summary of the whole book. We're really just summarizing little bits and pieces that happened in each chapter. Okay, and so that's what you guys are doing. So we are telling a smaller version of what goes on in the chapters. And you guys did that by drawing me a picture. You didn't write it out in sentences or labels yet. You just drew me the picture. So you're starting to practice and expand your learning on summaries. So as we start practicing a little bit more, we'll get into it a little bit more. But for today, I want you to just keep practicing, draw your amazing, wonderful pictures, take your time, okay? I love seeing you guys put so much effort into it. I have been showing the other 5th grade teachers the amazing drawings that you're doing because I'm so proud of them. So please keep up the good work so I can show off how amazing you guys are, okay? So with that being said, if you need anything, you know where to find me. Please come to me. If you need help with anything, you know I am here to help you with anything that you need. If you have any questions, let me know. And go ahead and go get your assignment done. Have an amazing rest of the day. Bye, guys.